Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sky blue fishing. We're out here at the lake. Just got on live. Sky blue fishing out here at the lake, everybody. Good morning. Got two lines out. Both of them have night crawlers and marshmallows on them. Out here fishing the lake, beautiful Northern California. Just put the lines out. Sun's just starting to come up. Going for big trout. Lots of fish out here. Lots of different size trout. But boy, I'd like to get some of them 25-inch trout if I could. Hope everyone's doing well this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be in the beautiful world. I'm out here in Northern California, close to the Oregon border. We just had a good little snow spell go through. Didn't give us much. Just above us it did. Gave us a lot. We got a little dusting, less than an inch. We are hoping to get them big trouts. Come on, trout. Hope everyone's having a beautiful, beautiful time wherever you are. Day's just breaking here. The lake's rising on us because it's been so much rain, so much. Well, there's a dam here. Hey, Matthew, good morning. Nice to see you. There's a small dam on this lake here, and so the water level ebbs and flows. It's the outlet is the Sacramento River, and so it flows down to Redding. After Redding, there's a dam there. They have a big lake there called Lake Shasta, which is one of the big dammed up water sources in all of California. Then the Sacramento River keeps flowing on down, as you can imagine, towards Sacramento, and then starts heading towards the coast. It becomes this real big, intense river. John, peekaboo. Sorry, John. I was down fishing just south of the dam here, checking it out. Wanted to see if I got good signal, and it's a real wild river over there. I wanted to test the speed and kind of look at the bottom, trying to find a good tail out, find a real good area that's a swimming hole. And there's a nice little tail out. Caught a good 18-inch brown, nice German brown there yesterday, swinging a Panther Martin. I'm going to make a modified holder so I can take you all with me and show you. So get it off the tripod so I can actually like have you live there with me when I'm out throwing the spinners and throwing the things in the river, so you can get a bird's eye view of river fishing. Oh yeah, sun's coming out a little bit better. I can see the rods. Just gonna see that takedown and get it. We got some pretty hefty trout in here. 28 pound, I think is the record. I've only got maybe a 7-pounder. Yeah, we just got over our cold and intense spell, Matthew. Last night might be the last cold night for a little while. Kind of today's first official day of the start of spring. Slick. Having fun, fishing, trying to catch the big ones. Nah, I'm in Northern California, just south of the Oregon border. Yeah, it was high 20s last couple nights, and then it's going to break tomorrow. It's going to totally change for us. And then in a few days, we're going to get all the way up to 74. So that's it's the official start of spring here. Rivers have been challenging to fish with all this rain. I'm a couple hours from Oregon rivers. Got the Rogue, Chetco, and Umpqua, and especially the Chetco and other ones like that just been rained out. They've been getting floods like you wouldn't believe the last week over there in Douglas County. So no river fishing for me for a bit. That's the thing about over here in the Pacific Northwest. Is we are I got a little nibble. I couldn't tell what that was. We have a lot of these wild rivers, and so we're kind of slave to the weather conditions. We always are checking our weather report, number one, but then good anglers here in this part of the country, what we do is we always have to look at the current rivers. So say you got 5 rivers to choose from. You're best off spending some good time the night before you want to go out, researching the rivers, taking a look at the water flow levels. And then after a while, you get to kind of chart down the water flow levels, and you know that, okay, 2,000 CFS works really great, but if it's a 7,000, 8,000, I've seen as far as like 25,000 CFS, which is just a blown out river. You don't want to touch that river. It's scary to even get near it. Flood conditions, so muddy that there's nothing would bite anything you threw out there. Speaking of bite, we're getting one. That was a good nibble. Rudy! Might have just saw that nibble. Felt like a small nibble. I got a night crawler with the marshmallow out, and so the marshmallow brings my bait up into that perfect little strike zone, we call it. Footer, 15 inches up off the bottom, where the big trout and where the trout in general are just kind of sitting, because they like to swim and float 5-6 inches, so a foot off the bottom. They don't sit on the bottom. And so I can often kind of tell by the type of strike what kind of fish I was getting. The way that marshmallow sits up like that, we'll get the slam when a giant fish just comes and he's just hungry and he just takes it. We get these little 12-inch dockers. Back mountain, yo, good morning. Thanks for coming in, y'all. Northern California, beautiful day. It's about 32 out, just above the freezing. My yellow rod over here has a braided line on it. I got pure fluorocarbon on this other rod. It's challenging to have this braid when it gets way froze like this. I think I was out here yesterday and the day before, early morning. Monkey man! Woohoo! Monkey man, Ontario in the house. My old friends in I'm from the Portland, Oregon area, and I had a lot of friends from Idaho and other regions. Some of them were old Canadian transplants, eh? And they would always tell me that every month that has an R in it, every month that has an R in it up in Canada, you can expect there could be snow. That was their old rule of thumb for living in Canada. I was like, really? Every month with an R in it, you expect there to be snow. Where I'm at, about an hour from the Oregon border. Gen X, hey, hey. It's not nowhere near as rough as that. We're in the Siskiyou, end of the Siskiyou, start of the, kind of like Siskiyou Mountain Range, and then it goes into the Cascade, and then just south of us is the Sierra Mountain Range. It's kind of an interesting mountain range. I go through about 4 to 5 cords of wood. I'm going to check that bait since I got hit. My old Canadian buddies used to tell me they could go through 8 cords plus in a winter. I was like, wow, 5 cords is a lot for us to burn. Yeah, man. No problem, Gen X. Yeah. Took some of my worm, but didn't kill it, didn't take it off the line, so I can save the worms. Gotta put another marshmallow on. I take my marshmallows and I soak them. I got 3 or 4 different scents that I like to use. I'll talk to other fishermen around here. Old lady was talking to me yesterday. She's like, I've been fishing here forever. I've never caught a single trout. She's like, what do you use? I told her worms. She's like, I use worms too. Never caught a single fish. I mean, I've caught probably 700-800 fish here. She just doesn't have that fish thumb instead of a green thumb, whatever you want to call it. But I noticed that I use a bit of a sweet corn that's hard to get, and then some garlic and stuff at times. I've had low water conditions where I could see these giant trouts here just hanging out, just massive. And I'm sitting there, I got my bobber on because it's only like 2 feet of water, and it's like kind of like a small creek channel that zips through here and then eventually hits the lake when the water's way down. It really like forces them. Good morning, Tara. Oh, so wonderful to see you. And so I was sitting here a couple years back, and I was throwing this nice worm, beautiful night crawler. I had him on a float, and I was just dangling it right in front of this fish. He wanted nothing to do with it. I'd see him, he'd swim up to it, he'd look at it. Oh, I'm out. No thanks, no thanks, no thanks. And then I was like, well, let me try this. So I took my worm and I dipped it into my marshmallow container, which has got a lot of my extra scent oil that I use to cover the marshmallows. And I just coated that worm with it. And I threw it right back in the same spot, man. And then I saw that big fish swim right up to it. And he didn't even hesitate. Just wham! He just swallows that wormhole. And I was like, ooh, scent can make a big difference. Even on a night crawler. I was like, oh, let me try this. Regular night crawler, he didn't care about it. And it had that scent on there. That was it. Irresistible. Oh, we're getting hit. We're getting hit on the yellow rod. That was a little tap, tap, tap. Wasn't a serious guy, though. 2 little tap, taps. We need big, big slam, slam. Appreciate you guys dropping in, hitting that like button, saying hi. I know there's a lot of people live in the mornings. I usually sit around and watch a couple shows. Depends if Burt goes live. I always, I'm a big, yep, you got my marshmallow. I'm a big any fins guy. I was doing tons of fishing channel surfing yesterday. I was watching Skipjack in the evening. Cindy and those guys were slamming it. It was great. Watched fishy things during the day, most of the day. I watched Release the Grease. I watched a little bit of the South Wisconsin Family earlier. Stonka, you got that right, man. Got them little hits. I'm waiting to get that slammy so I can yell it out loud, man. I was telling them earlier, you might have heard it read. I was fishing a river yesterday. Caught a big 18-inch German brown. I was swinging a Panther Martin spinner. I watched the Panther Martin swing through the tail out, and wham, that big fish hit. And it was game on. That's what I was like. Stonka. I was like, yeah, I got the fish. That's the first thing that came to my mind when that fish came. Come on, fishies. With the marshmallow that I use on there, it helps, like I said, float them, keep them right in that perfect strike zone. And then it's also kind of like a strike indicator. I can tell that after I get a little hit like that, I'll look and I'll see that the marshmallow has floated up. And then that tells me time to rebait. I think if any get another hit. I think we got one. We got a fish on this time, guys. We got him. He didn't mess around. Oh, yeah, we got him. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's giving me a little lip. He's not the biggest guy in the world, I can tell, but he's giving me some lip. Oh, he's a pretty fish. I got to go get my pliers. Oh, yeah, he's kind of smaller rainbow, but he's beautiful nonetheless. Beautiful rainbow. Say hi, everybody. I'm Mr. Fish, hanging by my lip. Mr. Fish lip. Mr. Fish lip. Let me get him off, everybody. He's not happy with me. Holding him by the lip. Relax, big boy. And he's out of here. He's gone. Mini stonka. What's up? Hey, buddy. Yeah, I was just saying, I was watching you yesterday, man. Yesterday was a beautiful fish day. Sometimes I just watch and I don't say anything. I was watching Luciana's live. It was so crowded in there. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything when I was watching your live yesterday. I kind of gauge by the chat. I got to re-gear, rebait, guys. Yeah, mini stonk is right, buddy. I kind of gauge by the chat. If it's real crowded in there, like I was in Skipjack Cindy's last night, and it was kind of crap. Oh, getting hit over here. I'm playing with me, huh? And it was real crowded in Skipjack Cindy's. So I wasn't going to overflood the chat. You know, I didn't have anything real important to say. So why say a bunch of stuff? Yeah, exactly. I was South. I was having a good day. I was the one that was like, all right, how about the milking hour? And he got a big chuckle out of that. Let's see what's the problem here? I might have got a stick on here. I was thinking about that. I was like, oh man, I need to make a little sticker, like in those old like vampire movies and those old werewolf movies. I was like, beware the milking hour. Picturing like a scary scene with a fish with nipples. And like that's the scary creature, and something's gonna warn you to beware of the milking hour. Little fishy things right there. Yeah. Wow, man. Yeah. Let me get this. I saw your comment this morning. I appreciated that on the little video I released late last night. And you mentioned that you never caught a trout, which is so interesting to me. I've never caught a muskie. I've never caught walleye. I've never caught pike. So I imagine my list I've never caught, you probably caught a bunch of. But raised out here in Oregon, California, Washington region, I've been catching trout as far back as I could remember. They're fun fish to catch. They tend to like to fight fair amount. In my opinion, bass fights real intense for weight, pound for pound kind of deal. But we get these bigger trout in the steelhead range. Ooh, you're in for a good fight. They pull drag like you wouldn't believe. You have to finesse them. You can't just use brute strength. Want to come in there being a big bully, they'll make you pay the price. Cool. You've never caught one either, Road? No trout? Wow, that's amazing. See, I listened to a cat who's in Sweden, and he's got property right on a river, and he talks about the fish that are in his place. And I looked him up, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I've ever caught any of those fish. I watched the people in Florida and people catching gar and all this other stuff, and I've never even dreamt of catching that fish. But we got these big sturgeons. You know, my family, we're steelhead and salmon fishermen. My uncle would talk about catching a 60-pound salmon in the 80s. We had a real intense runs of salmon and steelhead in Oregon. Oh man, I'm getting hit on that yellow rod. So they're getting me, y'all. Dividing my attention. Divide and conquer, I think. These fish are trying to get me today. They're winning. Divide and conquer is my enemy. Unlimited. Hey, hey. I am in Oregon myself, South Wisconsin. I'm not Oregon. What am I saying? I'm just south of Oregon. I was raised in Oregon, so it always kind of sticks in my craw. But I'm in California, just south of the Oregon border. Nice to see you here, Unlimited. Hey, hey, hey. I enjoy having two rods out, but sometimes it increases my odds, but it splits my attention, so it'll make it hard. Here, hey, catching trout out here, Northern California. Yeah. Thanks, Wisconsin. You know, for me, I started doing kind of equations of quality of life. And I was from Portland, Oregon, about 5 hours from here. And it's a bustling city of, you know, a little under 1 million people. And so it's got its crime and it's got the hustle and bustle of a big city. And when I was raised there, it was really safe and fun and beautiful. And then it turned to where when I raised my oldest kids there, it was not as nice. So I moved down here about 12, 13 years ago and raised my daughter here at age 4 when she got here. And it was just a wonderful place, man. It was safe. You could leave your doors unlocked. She can ride her bike everywhere without fears. And but the trade-off is it's a small town mountain community of like 3,000 people. And there's another town close to us with another 3,000, and then up the way, another town like that. So that's about it for about an hour in every direction. And so you got little teeny grocery stores, no Walmarts, no Targets, no Home Depots. So you got to go like an hour to get supplies like that if you want to, do it. They have, some hardware stores and things like that, but they tend to be fairly high priced. People have to kind of like take advantage of the tourism when they come through here. So I love it here, but the trade-off is you don't have a big nightlife. You don't have a lot of like restaurant choices, but we have some of the best air quality. We have endless amount of springs around here. Release, hey, buddy. And we have all these amazing water springs, cold water springs, not hot water springs. So we have one in the Headwater. It's called the Headwaters. It's a big park in our town. And it's like a creek. It's actually what they call the start of the Sacramento River. Yeah, I got to figure out, I put a community post out release, but I got to figure out that notification stuff. I may not have sent out a notification, bud. So that's one of the main draws of this town is that people come here for this fresh drinking water, and they just come and stop off the I-5 freeway, and they'll fill up endless amounts, man. So if we ever get power outages, anything ever gets weird and, national disaster kind of thing, we got all these springs around. So no one around here ever goes without water. There's actually so many springs that they've paved over a bunch of them on our roads, and it's kind of a nightmare. I lived by one. Let's hit that stonka for sure, man. And this spring that's under the paved road just constantly seeps, and so trout fishing today. Grease caught one already, little guy. I've got about 3 or 4 good bites that I missed. Little guys by the bites though, not them big monsters. Yeah, unlimited's great, man. Good community, man. Nothing but wonderful community. Part of the challenge for me out here is with what they'll stock it. We got a nursery or a hatchery, I should call it, about a mile from here, just up the road. And they use the inlet of that giant spring I was telling you guys about. It flows. They diverted it to a bunch of people's farms and for irrigation purposes and stuff. And then from there, no, you did not. I came back at the end, was bumping around. I was channel surfing, and then I had to get off and do some work. I got what I call a mini farm, Grease, and I got a couple acres that I tend to, and so I got about 800 little veggie starts going right now, and I'm always maintaining those, messing around, making sure everybody's set. So I can't plant things outside till about May 15th. That's my last frost date here. So my little peppers are coming up, all my lettuces, my basils. I just planted a couple flats of asparagus, strawberries. I'm going to grow some really interesting all white strawberry this year. They're like a delicacy. You guys may have them over in Europe. I hear them. That's what they talk about. They came from alpine strawberry. Kind of a delicacy. So it just grows, big old berry, tastes amazing and everything like that, but it's pure white. So I was watching Grease for a while. Sweet. Yeah, I've been learning how to take a clone or a start from cherry tree and from apple trees and things like that. There's like a handful of different ways you can do them. You can do them while the tree, you just leave the branch on the tree, and you can put this like this little, you scratch a little bit of bark off of a small branch, thick as your thumb. Oh, I missed him. Threw my other rod too. Got so excited I threw that other rod. And you end up being able to create a whole nother tree just off a small branch. And the cool thing about doing that is that when you start an apple tree or something like that from scratch, it takes like 5 years for that apple tree to produce if you start one from seed. But if you do it where you clone one and you start it from a small branch, then that puppy's ready to go. It'll start producing apples within that same year. And so by the time it's a 5-year-old tree, it's big and producing you tons of apples. So I got a real amazing cherry tree on my property, and I'm hoping I can take 20 or 30 starts off it. Yeah, botany is so great. I like creating my own independence. And when I was a youngster, I started realizing how dependent I am on everybody else to create things. Toilet paper, the food I eat from the grocery store, the gasoline I put in my car. And so I started realizing that I don't have a lot of real independence, freedom, if you will. I can't really completely survive and take care of myself and my family. And so little by little, I've been learning how to do a little more every year, so then I can cross something off the list. I can a whole bunch of stuff. Didn't have to buy them. Bought pickles for years. I'm an herbologist as well, because I studied plants like that for years. So then I can go around, harvest certain medicines, make tinctures, blah, blah, blah. My daughter would stay over at her friend's house. They would notice somebody getting some cough medicine or something, and it would be the strangest thing to her. It's like, well, I've never had any of that kind of stuff. When I'm not ever feeling the best, my dad will make me some big herbal tea that just tastes terrible. And to her, that's what medicine was. If you were ever sick, it was some kind of plant-based, blah, blah, blah. After a while, you get used to those flavors. Being just a little bit under 50% Lakota, but I wasn't raised on a reservation or anything like that. But I just kind of have that in my genetic build, if you will. So I've always been at home in nature, more comfortable around plants and fish and water and rocks and stones than I have been people most of my life. So gardening was easy. It was learning what the plants want, learning how they work together. For me, I've studied it for a long time. I create this living soil. Real good gardeners will tell you they don't grow plants, they grow soil. Come on, fishies. I want to stop missing on these fishies. I'm right on them. I'm not distracted today. Just not getting the right kind of bites. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm 53. So I was born in 71. So I got to experience a lot of the 70s because my parents were kind of having fun in the 70s doing their thing. So they let us kids just be crazy. And then my grandma was a master gardener. She had this up in Portland, Oregon. She had this rose garden that was just to die for. It was just massive, whole front yard. And I don't know how hybridized things were. Yep. Yep, exactly. So only one year apart. So I remember watching Saturday Night Live. I mean, that was the big deal. It was around 78, 77 or 78 for me and my sisters and stuff. Was could you stay up late? Parents would be gone. My older sister would be watching us all. Yeah, exactly. I always have, but wheat dead. Breaking news, but wheat dead. Yeah, it was like that was the badge of honor. Can you stay up? You felt like you were this like party animal. Like, oh, we stayed up late. In Portland, there was a whole lot of like these. It was like a folk scene. It was a folk scene, and so it was like bands like America, Horse with No Name, and so my parents would be at parties or at parties at our house, and all the adults out there with their guitars playing, and mid-70s, late 70s. All those kids would go in a bedroom. They just put all the kids in some room while the adults just go have fun. There'd be 15 of us kids in there just bouncing off beds and hooting and hollering and just going crazy. Oh, I love the Benny Hill Show. That was my favorite. Back then, my daughter doesn't understand the simplicity of the world back then. Only having those few television choices and rabbit ears to where you had to get your sister to stand in a certain place. So stay right there. Hold the antenna, and then it would work. Just stay there. She'd be like, I'm not going to stay here. I'm like, well, just hold the antenna. It's working. Then she'd leave it, and there goes the reception. Yeah, nobody. So we only had those few choices to watch, and Benny Hill was one of the best. I watch people who do little shorts, or funny little things with Benny Hill on it. Just cracks me up. Yeah, that those rabbit ears on the television is really when I noticed like the electromagnetic field that a human generates. As a kid, I didn't understand it. You could walk by the TV and it'd mess it up. So I'd mess with my sister or something. Stop it! I can't see my show, because I would just walk in a certain way, and then the television gets messed up. And then in my 20s and stuff, when I started looking at energies and studying different things, I was like, wow, yeah, you could see it. You could see the static electricity that we would create, and you would see the interference we would do. Yeah, those were fun times. It was fun and innocent. 70s were a great time because we had a lot of block parties. I remember the Independence. I remember in 1976, the bicentennial, and it was just crazy. The block parties we had in Portland were just all up and down the street. And at 4th of July was a big deal. It's like these big long streets we'd have. Everyone would close it down, and there'd just be this big party. And just everyone would bring out little tables and just all up and down the street. You could walk or ride your bike and just bump into anybody and everybody up down the street and grab a little snack. And then come firework time, everyone was right there on the street, lighting everything off. And I used to remember how friendly it was here in America. Yeah, exactly. A while ago they did do some weird converter box for the free television thing. And then like they were giving them out for free for people, but like the old televisions that people had just wouldn't work anymore. Yeah, I had an attitude, South Wisconsin, growing up. We all kind of do. Yeah. I remember when my dad first got HBO, man. Cinemax HBO. I was like, are you kidding me? I can watch TV. I can watch these movies all day, no commercials. Oh, it was happening. Yeah, I remember, MTV days. I was enjoying my Van Halen. I was enjoying, Motley Crue, that kind of stuff when it came out. I would hear, I'd hear Michael Jackson doing Billie Jean or something. Secretly, I liked it. Inside my head, I was like, oh, that's a cool song. But I couldn't let anybody know. No way, man. No way I could admit that some of those Madonna tunes or that Michael Jackson stuff was all right. Because we were, we had an image to uphold, in the mid 80s, early 80s. Now, I'm like, yeah, I kind of like some of those songs. I find myself putting them on. I'm like, that Michael Jackson stuff is great. I'm like, what was I doing? What was I thinking, man? I never gave it a shot. I had like a judgmental attitude. I put them on now. I'm like, oh, man. That Billie Jean tune can rock, man. I was a roller skater. It was the 70s. And so roller skating was like the thing. I had a sister that was a little bit older than me. Yeah, I think I've gotten one little guy back. I've lost a few. Yeah, me too. I did the breakdancing, man, up in Portland. My sister was 3 years older than me, and my other one was 5 years older than me. But my sister was 3 years older than me. She was in a couple of breakdancing troops. Well, that was a hit and a miss. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. And so, yep, all that stuff, man. And so my sister was way hard in the crew, and they had their nice outfits and all that good stuff. My buddy Reinhardt, he was like the best, man. He was the best breakdancer we had around here. And Portland had a company called Nike. You guys may know Nike shoes and all the Air Jordan stuff. Well, they started in Portland. And so in the 80s, they were like the local teeny company, man, Nike shoes. My buddy Reinhardt, his mom was a professional dancer. So he got a commercial. He got a job doing a commercial breakdancing. And, they paid him a couple $100, but they paid him massive stuff. He got all this free Nike gear. But I was really cool, man. I would see my good friend. I always play basketball with him. And I'm like, you're a star, bro. You're on those Nike commercial. Yeah, I wanted them red pants so bad, man. It was like, what do you want? You want the red or the black parachute pants, man? I went with the red. I didn't have a ton of money, so I had to save up stuff. And like, roller skating was my jam. Started off with these just terrible metal wheel roller skates in the 70s. My sisters would hold my hands. Like the end of the 70s, roller skating on these just terrible sidewalks. It was the worst thing ever. And then we go, it was like the place kids went. It was the roller rink, man. You just go there, I remember being like 13 and be able to do them all night skates. Oh man, I was a big boy now. My mom would drop me off, like 8 o'clock, and they'd be like, okay, I'm gonna come back get you at like 6 a.m. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do all night skate. And break the nerve to go ask some girl to couple skate. I had that Karate Kid look, man. I had that little oh man, that's a bummer. Oh man. Oh yep, embarrassment at school, man. No good. Oh, that's even worse, man. Oh, what a bad day. Oh man, I'd have ran home. I'd have just ran, put my backpack behind me and booked. I remember at the skating rink, I had my parachute pants on. I was booking. I was speed skater, so I was whipping around once, and I wiped out, landed on my knees, and I slid. And those parachute pants don't do very well for friction, so just ate a hole right in them. And those things weren't cheap, man. Mine were like $80 or so back then. Today that'd be like $500. So those parachute pants cost some coin, man. Oh yeah, getting a bite. Got the fish. We got a fish. We got a fish this time. We got a fish. You ain't getting away from me, little cheeser. Hard part I was starting to say earlier, I think I got distracted, is that they stock them with these size fish, and these guys hang out in great numbers, and it's hard to get to the big ones. Here he is, Mr. Wiggles, Mr. Wiggleson. Yo, Wiggleson, stop. There you go. Hi, everybody. Say hi to your audience. They wanted to see you spin. Woo! Stonker! Oh, yeah, man. It was songs like, hey, let's hear it for the boys. Let's give the boys a hand. Songs like that. I remember them playing in like 84. Bing, bang, bong for the holiday. Songs like that. Those were the jam when I was in my formative skating years, man. I had some of those hammer pants, man, in about 92. Oh, the weird pastel colors that we had. It was like these big puffy pants that were like yeah, weird, like pastel pinks and weird. Some of my jackets, my snowboarding jackets and stuff were the weirdest colors, man. Weirdest patterns. Things we thought were cool in the 90s. I don't know. Get this puppy re-rigged up. That's two fish. But it's hard to get those giants, man. That's what's challenging, like I'm saying, is that these little stalkers will take my bait first. About 3 weeks ago, I was bobber fishing. I just opened my worms, and I had kind of a sad looking worm. It was a whole worm, and I didn't want to cut him in half, so I was like, I'll just put the whole worm on. Tossed it out there. Bobber went down. Wham! And probably was only floating for like 10, 15 seconds, and that bobber went down. And it was that 26-inch German brown. And so he wanted the whole worm. Yeah, the days before the internet were really different. You know, we had to, having forts was like some of the biggest thing. I was way into my BMX bike. BMXing was my thing, man. I rode off-road motorcycles all my life too, but didn't always have the money to buy and or maintenance nice motorcycles, but I could scrounge up bicycle stuff everywhere. So when I was like 15 and living in Southern California with my dad for a couple years, I got this bike I always dreamed of. AJ, good morning. Catching fish. Oh yeah, man. My buddies, in about 85, yeah, I'd say about 85, 84, I started seeing these red lines that had those skinny tires, man. They'd be the red girls, man, and they would just have that little half-inch skinny tire, skinny rim. Man, I ended up getting this one called Cook's Brothers. It was Cook's Brothers Racing out of Santa Ana, California. And man, it was as nice as any any Diamondback or any red line. And when I look that bike up nowadays, it's a couple $1,000 bike from any of those early 80s Cook's Brothers. It was all like a lot of things in my life. I wanted something so bad, but I never really had the money. By the time I got the money to get it, I was phasing out of it. So it was like I was growing. I was now I was getting into cars. By the time I got that Cook's Brothers bicycle, I was like, I'm driving age now, man. I taught myself to drive. I would sneak out. My stepmom had a new Mazda RX-7. Yeah, I was Transformer massive fan on there, man. Yep. Diamondbacks were nice, man. That's what I wanted when I was younger. Yeah, I had a decent mongoose with mag wheels and all that stuff like that, but I wanted the one of this badass diamondback and these red lines that were those racing red lines with those skinny reels, man. Oh, we're getting hit. Who's this? See, those are the hits that I'm usually interested in there. That's the kind of fish that just bumps it and then splits. No, I don't think I've ever heard of an elf. That's cool. Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh, no, I didn't. He got off. Thought I had him, man. Might have just pulled his lip. I felt some resistance for a second. Yeah. That one, I think, had a little bit more to him. Seems after you get used to a certain type of fish in a certain region, you can kind of tell by the type of bite. The big fish that I've caught, they don't mess around. They're hungry, and they just take it, and wham, fish is on. Game is on, I should say. I'm fishing an inlet, so the water comes down this creek to would be the left of the camera view. Yeah, that was a real fast bite. Grease. Almost thought I had him, man. I felt the resistance. I felt it. I think he was slightly hooked, and then he ripped his lip, did whatever he could to get free. Yeah, so I was my dad left Portland in the around 78 or so, and he was big disco guy. So he took off. He head down to Southern California and live up the nightlife and have fun. And we lived in Portland, and so when I'd go down and live with him, back and forth, living with my mom, I was about 14. Hey, man, South, it's been great reminiscing about old times. Take care. You be good. I'm looking forward to checking out a lot of your show, man. Appreciate you. Wow, man. Yeah, that in Southern California when I was there I lived there in the early 80s up until about 87. And so I got to watch, I was a bit of a skater and had a lot of surfer friends. So I got to watch the skating community kind of grow, and the BMX community got to shift. Fresh milk, baby. And so there was interesting companies that would pop up here and there. Cook's Brothers was one of them. And so they made bikes that were every bit as nice and competitive. And there was Cook's Brothers Racing Team, and people. I had a few rider friends that were sponsored. They were sponsored by Redline. Nobody by Cook's Brothers, but most people back then wanted a Cook's Brothers because it was like a specialty bike that was not manufactured in large quantities. Chaos, morning, bud. It was funny. I was a big hot rodder. There was a big drag racing scene, and all my uncles and dad and everybody had nice, really old good Chevys and stuff like that. It was mostly Chevy and Ford families, no real Dodges. And so I grew up with lots of hot rodders, and my dad was a big race junkie. When I was less than 2 years old, he put me on his 2-stroke motorcycle, and he was a wheelie riding champion kind of guy. He could ride wheelies for just miles, and we wouldn't have any helmets on, and he'd just tell me to hold on to that handlebar, and he'd just get that bike of his and he'd ride it up on a wheelie, and we'd be wheeling all the way down the streets. My mom would just be yelling at him, so mad at him. So out there just, yeah, get him off that bike, she'd be yelling. And I mean, it was one of the most intense, weird, scariest feelings I ever had. It was the pure adrenaline of that motorcycle when it would take off and just pull that wheelie up. just one of like, and you know, so I'm less than 2 years old. I'm like a year and a half. My dad was just, it was the 70s. So what we did. And, so I kind of grew up with love and adrenaline. And, so motorcycle riding, it outdid the BMX bike. And once I started getting onto that in my teenage years, I started riding 2-strokes. Bought myself a CR 500 right from Honda in 1993. I bought a brand new Honda. It was like the biggest bike I could get. I rode that thing for a couple decades. And I see a lot of people talk about this or that when they ride certain bikes, but it's like, oh man, you ride those 500 2-strokes. You know, that's some serious power. And I got this 1000 now. It's a street bike. And it's got more torque, more takeoff than that CR 500 did. Well, let me put that correct. I had to lean over the seat on my CR. I had to do everything I had to keep that thing from wheeling on me. Come on, fishes. Let's get one of them big ones. I think we're 2 fish in. I was mentioning it's challenging with a lot of the stalkers. When they first put them in, they'll be just slamming everything possible. I really love it when the water condition drops. And it'll drop down, like say about 5 more feet. And then it'll create some water channels that go through here. And it kind of forces the fish into being in a smaller area. So it's easier for me to target. My favorite all-time fishing here is with bobber. Since the fish are hanging out here by this little creek, they like to sit and face upwards. Face the creek that's, you know, coming towards them. And then they're sitting there and they're getting, you know, little flies, and they're getting insects, little larvae, whatever might have fallen off of a tree or out of the bank. Gets into the water and it just flows down the stream. And so that's what they're eating. So I'll throw a worm on a float. I'll throw it upstream and then I'll let it drift right by them. And that's probably about 80% of the fish I catch have been that way here, because it's just deadly. They see that worm float by, they don't waste any time. They don't give you that little intimidated tap 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 kind of gentle bite. And then secondary, it works really well because it's usually just lip hook, mouth hook almost every single time. They never swallow it. It's rare that when I use that bobber that they'll have a guttural hook or anything like that. So I usually keep the fish. I'm after the big eaters. But if I don't catch the big eaters, then I need to let them go. So that's probably one of the reasons I really don't like treble hooks, and like power bait tends to work really well on treble hook, but it's so difficult for me to release those fish unharmed. They get those 3 hooks in them. Seems like it really hurts them. I was watching a show a while back, and the person was just suggesting to just cut the line if you have a guttural hook fish. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, ooh, isn't that just going to kill the fish if they have the big, you know, hook in their tongue, if you will? And so I went and researched it, and surprisingly not. They did studies, and they found no mortalities when they release fish in a controlled environment. So the hooks actually dissolve a lot of times, depends on the material. And if they don't dissolve, they'll just kind of, you know, eventually work their way out. I know a lot of people with tongue rings, tongue piercings, and I was like, okay, I guess so. You probably just get used to it when it comes to eating. Yeah, it makes sense. Trebles are tough, man. A lot of these spinners that I buy will have trebles on them. And for the salmon and steelhead, I take them off. I like the single hooks, and yeah, way too pokey. Just caused a lot of damage. And so we'll take off the trebles and we'll put on a hook that's called a Siwash. And the best ones that I've noticed that if I don't buy them from this one particular company, I'll just kind of copy what they do. And there's a small bend, kind of an offset, if you will, with the shank of the hook. So it doesn't just make like a perfect J shape. Oh, we've got the blue heron coming by. He's in view right now. There he goes. Blue heron. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. It'd be interesting with the pike doing that. I get worried, occasionally I catch a catfish or something like that, and then they'll do that. They'll thrash around, and I'm like, oh man, this is dangerous, trying to get the hook out. I watch people use that weird like lip grabber tool. I don't know what they call that thing, but like when they catch pickerel, some of these other fish that have like all these serious teeth, they got like this little crimp thing that they like. I watched Cindy last night, and Skipjack Cindy, when she caught a catfish, and she had it hooked on by the lip by this thing. I don't know the name of it. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I heard him talk about, metal leader, not fishing line leader, but like wire leader. We use a style of fishing where we got to throw these big heavy weights out into a river. And then we'll use these disc weights or these big pyramids. And we'll have a cable, a little, wire cable that's coated with that plasticky stuff, whatever it is. We'll use those to hold the weight on, because the river will tend to bounce your weight down river, and then it'll wedge it sometimes in particular places. And if you have, 10, 20 pound line on there, it'll typically snap it trying to get that weight out. Ooh, bouncer. Good morning, man. That sounds nice. Yeah, that steel leader. That sounds really interesting. What kind of jerky? Hang, huh? I do a lot of fish jerkies. Wow. That'd be a trip. We got salmon, and we got a few of these other big fish here. And when you catch them and you look at their mouth, they got teeth that are 1/2 inch long, and big rows of them and stuff like that. I'd hate to get bit by the guy, but I don't think it's the type of teeth that can come together like scissors do and make an incision kind of thing that can snap a line. I rarely ever hear of anybody talking about salmon biting through. Yeah, got a fish, 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 and this one's a little bit better head shake. We got a fish. We got a fish. Get away from there. Oh, he's just a little fighter. Same size guys. Pretty one though. Oh, whoa, he's a jumper. Whoa, he's not a happy fish. Whoa, little tail walker. Not a happy fish. Say, hey guys, what's happening? I'm a fish, and I'm gonna go back in the water. Nice to meet y'all. Bye-bye, fish. See you later, buddy. You be good. Hey, little buddy. Little buddy. Hey, Fred. That's my little buddy, Fred. That makes 3. Mama Cookie, good morning. You might have saw the fish. That was the 3rd fish of the day. Catching little trout, trying to catch the big trout, but only getting the little trout. Little trout's better than no trout. Oh, trouty. Come on, let's get one of them big ones. When I get one of these 25, 26-inch fish, sometimes they'll fight like crazy. And I'll have to set the drag on loose. Yeah, I bet, Bouncer. Wow, someday I'd love to catch a pike, man. So fun watching you guys catch all these different fish. I was talking with South Wisconsin earlier. Talking about not catching trout before. To you guys catching pike, pickerel, all these other cool things. It's probably like second nature to y'all. I've never caught one. Watching everybody's carp setup has been so interesting. These bait boxes and stuff like that. Yeah. Musky too. Pike looks really cool, Mama. And I've been well, I don't know about no pike or no pickerel. I can't account for the fight on that. But boy, I tell you what, when we get these steelhead trout, they give you a fight like you wouldn't believe. If I'm in the river, oh man, I get spooled, I get pushed, I get tested, and you can't horse them around. You got to fight with the current. You got to play with all kinds of things. You got to keep them away from logs, and them steelhead especially. They jump up out of the water. They flip flop. They're really well known to do this, cartwheel, barrel roll in the air. So they'll jump up, flip flop sideways. They'll get a little bit of slack in your line, and they'll they'll flip the other way and just break your line. Ooh. Yeah, see, we got these big sturgeon, and I watch people catch halibut off the coast here, and a lot of times it doesn't look like a whole lot of fight. They're just dealing with a heavy creature. It'd be as if you snagged a tire and you just got a half-hour hard job trying to pull that tire up. Wow. See, I've had a fair amount of experience catching bass when my dad was living in Illinois, and I would go out there. And I lived with him for a while, and he lived on a lake, so we just fish for fun in the backyard. And those bass, pound for pound, boy, they were so much different than a trout. I mean, the amount of fight that you got felt like it was 2 or 3 times like the muscle strength in a trout in a bass. So if that's what like some of these pickerels and stuff are, where they're just kind of like a pit bull dog compared to a little poodle, where their muscles are just like twice as dense and hard. They got all that more strength. Yeah, that'd be great. The catfish at times look like you get an adequate fight, but you're kind of just pulling up something heavy. The carp looks like it can give you a good fight. That gar down there, that looks like something that you're going to remember if you caught a gar. 36-inch pike. Ooh, is pike a good eating fish? Huh. When it comes to trout, I'm really, really picky about what I eat. I do not like anything that's stocked, that's been there. Ooh, that good. So that is good to eat. Oh, it's good to hear. And I need that trout to be pretty wild. I need it to be a holdover fish that's been in this lake for long enough. Pure white meat. Ooh. See, I like the lean, mean fish eating machines. I don't like the bottom feeders. Meat consistency is so much different. Like we get these albacore tunas, and that's a lean, mean fish machine out there in the ocean that's just jumping, and it's just insane fish. I'll have to try. I'll have to get a hold of some pike and give it a shot. But all my time I've eaten some of those bottom feeders. They're just different. They just have a different texture, a little bit more, less compact meat structure, a little more flubbery kind of, especially on catfish. Good deep fat fried, but I kind of like to eat something that's just lightly seared without a whole lot of seasoning, just to give it an idea. Ooh, very good to hear, Bouncer. Yeah, where we're out here, whoa, got some duck and geese chasing each other. It's mating season here soon, so they're giving each other the business. Yeah, I think that's what I had to study it. I had to study how to fillet different fish for a while, and trout are an interesting one too. The same with salmon and steelhead. We got these pin bones that run down there, and so if you're really good at your filleting, you can make this small little V kind of cut, and you can just remove that whole section of pin bones that run down the fillet of the salmon or steelhead. We got these sucker fish, a Klamath River sucker that are out here, and it's supposed to taste like candy. It's supposed to be just a delicious tasting fish, but it's just massively full of bones, not the kind of bones that apparently can be dealt with either. There's no way. There's no proper filleting technique. There's nothing. So what people tend to do to the suckers around here is they take after they gutted it and cleaned it, they take a real nice knife and they make a incision through the whole of the meat about every 1/8 of an inch. You just go up and down the fish, and then they take it like that and they'll bread it, and then they toss it in a deep fryer. And since all those cuts have been opened up in the fish, it exposes the bones every 1/8 of an inch. So they basically deep fry the bones. And so now the bones are a little crunchy thing that are easy to eat. Oh, that's pretty cool about smoking. What I've learned when it comes to the trout is I'll cook them about 80%, because trout are strange, and when they're uncooked, the meat sticks to the bone, and when they're completely cooked, the meat sticks to the bone, and so it's very, very challenging to debone a trout, either of those two areas, if you don't have it cooked or if you've cooked it fully. But if you cook it about 70 to 80%, where you really wouldn't want to eat it unless you kind of like eating sushi or kind of stuff, because there's still a lot of rawness to the meat. But then all those trout bones, they just pull out like nothing. And usually at that point is where I'll take them after I've cleaned up all the bones, stripped it all down. I'll put it in my marinade when, like I said, it's about 70% cooked. I'll give it an overnight marinade really well, and then I put them in my smoker. Yeah, I out here in the West, it's an interesting thing. People are like, okay, well, I pay for my fishing license, and they stock the waters, and so they kind of look at it as something that they pay for their entertainment. I can go catch those. I can go put some power bait on and sit there and catch these little stalkers all day long, and not care about if they live or they die, kind of thing. It's kind of like a disposable fish mentality people have in their head because, well, that's what my fishing license pays for. And it's kind of like that's the purpose of most of the stalkers are for these weekend fish people that just want a little experience. And they're not good eating fish in my book. And so I like to hold over fish. I like to go to wild sources. We got a whole bunch of rivers and creeks and things up here that never get stocked. And I'm real self-conscious when I go up there. Yeah, exactly. Wild brook trout, you know it. That dark meat. That's why I like the browns. The German browns are in the salmon family. They're salmo. So they just have a different oil structure. Their omega 6 and omega 3 oil percentage in a German brown is different than trout. And so it just has a different flavor. And so most of the time when I eat the real nice fish that we get here, it just has next to no flavor. It just has a beautiful flesh consistency, and it just tastes amazing. Alexander, appreciate you, man. Hey, hope your work goes good, and thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you a lot, Alexander. Yeah, my daughter is spoiled that way too. Like she's been raised on eating real good fish. And so if she goes to a restaurant and they serve fish, she's like, "What is that?" That was a terrible cut of salmon. And if I catch a real good fish and we eat it within 2 or 3 days, you never even notice it. It just has a beautiful flavor, and whatever you want to cook it with, you grill some onions on it. Sometimes I'll put like a tad soy sauce and a little bit of garlic on it at the end. Sometimes I might hit it with a little bit of maple syrup. But you don't have to like drown your fish in all these weird, like coating it with lemon at the end and stuff like that. A lot of that's done for fish that just don't taste good. Yeah, Bouncer, when I grew up out here in Portland, Oregon, we always called them German brown. And I looked it up online just the other week just to see what the deal was, and because people don't really use that name anymore, and that was the original stock that they brought out here was from Germany. It was from Rhine something river, and so they have also brought other browns that have interbred, and it was saying that the original German brown had a lot more red dots on it, not so many black dots. The other European browns that they brought out had a lot more black dots. And so they've interbred over time. And they say it's kind of hard to find that German strain. I caught one yesterday, and it had nothing but red dots on it. Just nothing but red dots. There was maybe two little black dots on it. So my whole life, that's what I've been calling them. And I know there's a political correct movement in the world. And so I just didn't know if people are stopping using the German aspect because they want to be more correct. But you go online, and what it says is that lineage isn't as pure anymore. And that's what I see out here when we catch them. They're mostly the pure German brown strain. We got brookies. But California's strange. We can only keep a brook trout that's 10 inches or less. That's it. Our fishing rule, our fishing guideline in California states that all brook trout have to be less than 10 inches. And so I can't imagine a little 8-inch brook trout is going to be that great. So that's one of the fish that I don't eat that often. And I've caught a bunch of them. We got a river over here that I catch them in. I got a lake that's just right up 7 miles from here. And that's all it's got in it. It's nice brook trout. Yeah, that's what I figured. That's what I figured, Bouncer. And so it seems like a good rule. I as someone who eats fish, I'm like, well, I don't want to eat that little baby. You say when I go up to these natural streams and creeks, little French fries, huh? We used to eat this fish called smelt, and it's in a mackerel family, and that's what they'd be like, little 8-inchers, and we clean them up, deep fat fry that puppy in some butter, and it's coated, and my dad would coat that puppy in flour and all that good stuff like that, and it would crisp up, and you need the skin and all, and if you wanted to, those little smelts, you could eat the bone. The bone was so thin and small. That was back in the 70s. Yep, you know what I'm talking about, the butterflied smelt. Up in Portland, they would come through the Columbia River, and then they'd hit in these little side chute rivers, the Sandy and a few of these other rivers. And so still to this day, they do it. I was watching smelt season 2 years ago or so, and they let you use a dip net. I think it's 5-gallon bucket per person is like the limit. And so growing up in the 70s, we always had a freezer that was just full of them smelts, and that was a staple food. I got used to them. I loved them, The way my dad cooked up, I can still recall that beautiful smell. My dad was the one who, instilled the love of fishing in me. We'd get up early, 4 a.m, and it'd just be tough. I'd be a tired little 7-8-year-old boy, like, oh, Dad. But I never complained. Yep. So what I'm talking about. Just dip them puppies in. It's a fun experience. I loved it. I loved it. You know what I mean? And we had the Columbia River is a real big river. It's not as long as the Mississippi, but it's probably about 3 times as wide on most sections. And so it grew up on that real big river. It was just part of life. And so smelting was always a blast. That was the kind of river, Mom would always warn you about, because nice. Yep. That's just how it was. We have a lot of, all of our fish runs, like the salmon and steelhead, are, and most of the trout are stocked by the hatcheries. And in Oregon, I can speak on a lot, they have some issues with the hatcheries. And so in the 80s, they were running at full capacity. And so if you were to take an aerial view of some of these hatcheries, they'll have like 13, maybe 15, those little like swimming pool troughs things, whatever you call them, that they raise their. Oh, I think I missed that guy. That was a good little hit. That they raised their fish in. And in the 80s, all those things would be filled to capacity. Nowadays, there's only 2, maybe 3 of those things that are full of fish. And so the runs of salmon numbered in the 80 to 100,000 in the rivers here in the 80s. That's what the returns were. That's what came back to these hatcheries, that came back to the dams. That's what the fish counts were. 80 to 100,000. Now it's like 7,000, 5,000. And the majority of the reason is the fish hatcheries. They just don't grow them. And it's challenging, because as fishermen up there, and I pay a lot for an out-of-state license, and that's what all that extra money goes for, is the hatcheries. And they just don't want to do the job they used to. So when the runs used to be in these massive numbers, and my mom and relatives and everybody used to just go catch these king salmon like you wouldn't believe, they're just not there anymore. Hey, that's cool. South, hey, just missed I got maybe one way we're gone, just missed one. So we got this one hatchery on one of the closest rivers to me up in Oregon, and I'll go fish for the salmon there. And we're only allowed to keep a hatchery salmon. And for a hatchery salmon to be a hatchery salmon, they have to clip the adipose fin in the hatchery when they release the fish. Trapper. And so this hatchery has made a deal with a local dog food company. Yeah. And so this hatchery that takes the salmon, they made a deal. They get $50 a fish for these salmon, and they sell them to this dog food factory. And that is the wild salmon that have not had their adipose fin clipped. Well, unfortunately, the hatchery has kind of been corrupt, and they've decided to not clip the fins on the hatchery fish. They release them into the water, and then they'll come back 4 years later, and they'll look like a wild salmon. And so if anybody catches it, it's illegal to keep it. But it goes back to the hatchery to die, because that's where it came from. And so the locals have taken them to court 2 or 3 times, and it's an ongoing case that just keeps getting thrown out in the courts. But they've decided that hatchery, that they would rather make money selling fish. And so what they do, gotcha, I think I got, yep, I got, yeah, I might have lost him. Darn it. Andrew. Lost that fish. Man, I felt him. How you doing, Andrew? Let me hook you up, buddy. Just over the Oregon border, Andrew. So I'm down here by Mount Shasta. This is where I fish all the time, buddy. I was just telling everybody a little bit about the hatchery that's up on the Rogue River. And it's really tough, because I've gone up there and I've probably caught about 10, 20-something pound salmon, and they're always a wild salmon. But where we catch them is like half a mile from the hatchery, and there's no other creeks, there's no other streams, so there's no other place that these fish are breeding. I asked all the old folks, I'm like, so where are these fish going? They're like, oh, back to the hatchery. So I'm like, so they're hatchery fish? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, then why does it have an adipose? They're like, well, because they don't trim them. Yeah, I should. I'm going to try to get a little more mobile here in the next month or two. I got to balance all my work chores, my gardening chores. But there's there's a place called Miller Lake. Andrew, I'm not sure if you've ever gone to it. It's by Chemult, so it's south of Bend, and it's the only water source in Oregon that's open for trout fishing at night, 24 hours a day. Release. And so the Miller Lake looks pretty cool, Andrew. I'm not sure if you know anybody that's been there, but it's a brown trout lake, German brown like crazy. It looks like it's a decent sized lake, so might be hard for shore fishermen. You know, I like to study a place and try to figure out what part of the shore is where you can catch them. Yeah, I think I'm up to 3 fish so far, Grease. Just missed one. 2 I had them on the line, and as they were coming in, they got off. Must have been a light lip ripper. Yeah, growing up out here, I remember my mom would always take us on these boats. Dad would leave from Portland. We'd go to Medford, like 5 hours south. And she'd catch these massive salmon. I mean, the king salmon would be 50 pounders, and it would just be, our freezer had a couple 100 pounds of salmon in it all the time. Oh, yeah. He was trying it. It looks like a real cool lake, Andrew. Miller Lake. Looks like it's about 45 minutes south of Bend, little town of Chemult, which is south of Bend on the 97. And night fishing. That would be kind of cool, you know, because here in California, we can't night fish for trout. We can night fish for, you know, cats, maybe whatever else we're choosing for. Same in Oregon. Hour before sunrise, hour after sunset, you got to stop trout fishing, steelhead fishing, salmon fishing. But that lake is different. And it's predominantly a brown trout. And I studied it a lot. Miller Lake, tons of mosquitoes, man. It's a high mountain lake. So if you're coming up the 97 from California and you're heading towards Bend, it's to the left into the Cascades, to the heart of the Cascades. So when I've driven by the access road that goes by Chemult, they have like a snowmobile park signs on that road. So it looks like it's we got a few of those lakes up here that are like that. They got snowmobile trails during the winter and everything there, and inaccessible 70% of the year. But anyway, a lot of people talk about it being a mosquito heaven, man. They're like, oh, if you go there in July, you know, bring 5 cans of mosquito repellent because you're going to get destroyed. Yeah, man. I've been waiting. I've been watching G-Man hit the Deschutes too, and he was telling me about, you know, the Deschutes being shut down during probably the breeding season for the fish. And so that one looks fun, man. Go hit some of them steelies. If you know any good spots out there, catch a good steely on the Deschutes, that'd be a blast. I don't know if you go up. I don't know if you do the Columbia much, Andrew. Go up. I don't know if you do sturgeon or anything like that. That'd be a fun one. Even like maybe when the springers are running through, go up there and just do some spin and glow fishing. Do some plunking on the Columbia. Try and get some of them nice springers. Yeah, man. I was chatting with him when he was on a live. He was doing, I think, a live at Ochoco maybe a week or so ago. And just catching them smaller ones. And I was talking to him about the haystack. And because they got some of them chunkies up there, man. Those big hens that they were slamming. Can't tell if they're brooder fish that they release like that, you know, or if they're like holdover fish that have just been there for years. Yeah, serious, man. He lives where G-Man is, you know, I used to live in Redmond, Oregon for a long time, just a couple years, but I lived in Portland forever. And I would head over that way. I'd head to Prineville. I'd head up to these areas to go ride my motorcycle. It's one of the best, closest places to go ride my off-road bike. So I'd head up there to all these riding areas. Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Being raised in Portland, you know, I fished all the stuff. I don't remember fishing the Wilson and the Trask and a lot of these rivers. I did with my dad when I was young, but not as an adult. But yeah, they'd have these areas by the coast. It'd be like treacherous motorcycle riding out there, man, because it's always wet. My dad and his brothers and everybody used to love to take their bikes out there. Sweet Prineville. Yeah, man. I'm one of my other passions is collecting and working with stones, crystals, and things like that. And so I go out digging stones out in the central Oregon, out there by Brothers, to the east of Bend and stuff like that. Out getting petrified wood and other good things. And I scouted them out, and I'm like, "Where's the nearest fishing, man?" I was like, since I'm out here for a week, I'm like, "Let's go fishing, man." Sweet. No, I wanted to check that out. I heard you mention that yesterday. I thought, Andrew. I was like, "Oh man, I gotta look at that." Yeah, I was in Prineville, like 90, 97 out there, camping with a bunch of folks, hanging out in the middle of nowhere. Was all this like carnelian stones. There was a couple that were just these massive stones that were probably like 500 pound. But Oregon has beautiful carnelian. And but I mean, there's just no way you could have moved those things. And so that's that Prineville area. I was checking out the Prineville Reservoir, looking at that, and I was talking to G-Man the other day, and he was giving me some advice on what's the best way to catch fish at the Prineville Reservoir, because it's only like 10-15 minutes from where I'm out there digging petrified wood. Yeah, agates are a blast, man. I got a place about 3 hours from me called Hallelujah Junction. It's Peterson Mountain. It's right by Reno. And we have quartz, citrine, smoky quartz, and amethyst there. And there's some insane things. I've probably dug there 40 or 50 times, and it's kind of strange now. Different owners, but decade or two ago when I was digging there, you know, I'd pull out it's different there. They have these big massive crystal forms that are like celestial cathedral style. So they're not long, slender points of crystals. They're like this thing around as a bowling ball, and it'll have all these interesting like pointed terminations all over it. Man, it was like spirit. I'd love a bucket of those agates, man. That'd be great. And so yeah, I've seen $50,000-$60,000 crystals dug at this place called Hallelujah Junction. And so I myself have probably hit things that are worth about $1,000 to $2,000 a piece, and I've gotten a dozen or more of those. Then you go out to Arkansas, you can pay $20 to go to these mines. And fishy, hey. Those can be hit and miss, man. There was one time where I didn't have much time to spend, but the guy who owns the mine had a visitor come through that wanted to dig, and she wasn't getting much, and so her boss relayed a message to the owner of the mine that, hey, my employee's there and blah blah blah. So the owner had the employees of the mine bring out some dump loads of some real beautiful dirt, mud, clay, and Arkansas clay. And there were some serious crystals there, man. I only had like 5 hours to spend because I had to get back home and I was like 2 states away. I had a little baby with me. And, but I have like these little plastic tables, those little, 6 foot long by 3 foot wide tables, 30-inch wide by 60-inch long. And, I filled up 4 of those where I couldn't put another crystal. They were just they were touching another crystal on these tables, and they were like 10-inch points, just ice clear glass crystals. And I made probably like I made thousands. Man, I missed that bite. These bites are just little. Classic car guy, yo yo, hey hey. That was one of the few times, man, that I just should have like, someone was house sitting for me. I should have just bucked up and said, bro, I'm sorry, I'm going to be another day. But there were so many crystals that had come out at that point that, I probably would have got $50,000 worth of stuff if I would have stayed one more day. But you never know, man. Kaga, I'm going to hook you up just in case. If there's anybody in here that y'all are not subbed up to, just sub them up. Helps everyone grow. We all grow together is the way of looking at it. Yeah, you got what? Got the Ochako Reservoir. You got Haystack. You got Prineville out there. Got the Deschutes. And then, we can bump up a little bit further. You guys, not that far. It looks what? You got, you book up to 97. Maybe close to John Day or something like that. Yeah, it's beautiful out here. I think spring's finally going to start for us, y'all. In a couple days. I'll pan you over. You may be able to see it. No, you can't really see it. There's a mountain behind those trees right there, and it's just all full of snow. Wow, Scotty. I am in Northern California, right by the Oregon border, town of Mount Shasta, tourist town. Come on out and fish, y'all. Yeah, we got like just north of me in Douglas County, Oregon, got some serious flooding the last week. Sweet. Modesto in the house. Yeah, we're not that far, man. This is the start of the Sacramento River, man. There's a little thing they call it Wagon Creek behind me. Yesterday I did a sunrise up south. It's been strange, man. I was watching Fishy Things talk about that, and he was talking about how warm and hot it was, and then bam, it was cold. And like I said, I'm a serious gardener and stuff like that, and it's wreaking havoc on the plants. Like 2 years ago here, we had this warm spell come through, and it was about this time of year. It warmed up really nice for about 3 weeks, and so all the cherry trees and apple trees, every tree started blossoming like crazy. And then we got hit with this massive cold spell again, and it killed off all the blossoms. I mean, there was walnut tree in my neighbor's property, didn't produce a single walnut. Same with the cherries and pears and peaches, nothing. There's a squirrel. He lives off that. He lives off that tree. Yeah, I think so, man. These massive temperature swings. It's really hard. The fish don't like, what is going on, man? I watched the show that was talking about harp the other day. I watched this cool thing called Y-Files. And if you guys ever watched Y-Files, guy talks to a little cartoon goldfish. And he's great. He's a great example on how, where, and when, what you can do with your YouTube world. He just created a storyline, and he's got a talking goldfish, and they just retell stories, you know, kind of like the you know, the monster of Bray Road, that kind of stuff, werewolf tales, and he'll just tell tales. And I watched him go from a few 100,000 subs. I watched him hit 1 million. And then it seemed like after he hit 1 million, he just took off. 2 million, 3 million. He's at 4.5 million subs now. And it's just bam. Yeah, serious. And so Y-Files had one the other week on the harp, on the harp thing up in Alaska, on its ability to control weather. And I'm in a place where there's a ton of conspiracy people, and they've talked about that for a long time, man. Exactly, right down the road from that thing fishing. And so, you know, there's been like a whole lot of conspiracy talk about, well, what we're going through isn't natural. A lot of these weird fires that we've had, the one that was in Hawaii, the Paradise Fire we had here, people recorded like a weird like laser beam coming down. And yeah, exactly. Old school computers. And so HARP is real. And I watched the Y-Files talk about it the other day, and they showed all the different things. I mean, they say it's not for weather manipulation, such and such. It's for studies of the atmosphere, this and that. But the Y-Files was like, well, just look at their patent. It's like they registered their patent, and the words on the patent are for, are for, you know, weather manipulation and manipulation of the atmosphere. And it just flat out says it in their thing. Yeah, the old cloud seeding from Vietnam War days. I saw videos. You know, they're on YouTube now. You can look at them. And they had a weird project in it. They wanted to flood out the lands of Vietnam. They wanted to destroy the rice harvest. They wanted to make it so muddy that the military equipment for the Viet Cong couldn't operate very well. And they succeeded. They succeeded so well that it flooded way worse than they thought. And another country, it was Dubai, maybe just a couple years ago, did the same thing. There, you can go on YouTube, and there's a whole bunch of things where they talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to go up and seed the clouds because we need rain. But they did it too much, and it overrained, and they had massive flooding and all these weird problems there. So that, you know, that was stuff of conspiracy a long time ago. Oh, that's just BS, blah, 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 blah. Now it's talked about. Yeah, I kind of believe that we're going to find out many years later what we've been going through. If you guys study things, you'll learn that, like, what we call the Civil War, they didn't call it the Civil War back then. When it was happening, it was called the War of Attrition. That was the name that was given at that moment in life. It was the War of Attrition. So it got termed the Civil War many, many, many decades later than the actual war. So I kind of believe we're in some weird kind of thing now. We'll probably call it the weather wars. Decades from now, people will look back and they'll be honest about what went on, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this country was manipulating that country. Because you see it. It's like these massive earthquakes in China. And it's like, I think somebody from over here is doing something to them. And then they retaliate back. And then we retaliate back. And then it's just that eye for an eye will leave everybody blind kind of reality. So I have a hunch that that's what's going on. And so when I see these weather manipulative things, and I see such extremes that I've never really seen in my 53 years of living, that's what I'm like, huh? You know, we have to change what we can grow here. We can't grow our tomatoes like we used to because they just don't ripen anymore, because it doesn't get as cool here anymore. I talk to old friends in Canada who've lived there for 30 years, and they tell me about the amount of ice they used to have, the amount of frozen rivers and things, it's nowhere near the same. So it seems a little bit more extreme than natural selective patterns that the Earth would go through. I could be wrong, but actually, I just, my observations seem like we might find out decades later that we've been secretly in a weird experience that was something like the weather wars. Yeah, South Wisconsin. That's my belief. You know, I watch these guys who talk about a lot of simulation theory, and they talk a lot about how there's like some underground bases. There's Mount Cheyenne. There's a bunch of these really interesting things that our own government has, crafts and equipment and things like that. They come up out of the ocean and they come up out of these different things. And what people end up thinking that they're seeing as UFO are actually just equipment that our own government has. And that one seems to resonate. I've heard about these bunkers. I've heard about all these amazing things that these really protected kind of group of people, they have all these bunkers, these like Mount Cheyenne kind of complexes built around the world. And the simulation guys, I watch one who's a chronologist, and so he studies old books and he studies old facts, not just lore. Y-Files is amazing because they'll take a tale or a lore and they'll show you or prove it. Yeah. And so the cool thing about the Y-Files is that he'll prove to you that something was kind of and so then you learn a lot of these weird tales were just kind of there so someone could make a book and make some money. But this chronologist guy that I follow, he studies past events. And there it's really interesting when you see what societies had as far as technology, what they had in place. And I was watching one where they were talking about the old cathedrals with those giant like organs, those giant pipe organs and those stained glass windows. And some of their original design seemed to be where that giant pipe organ was like a frequency harmony, kind of like a frequency generator. It generated a particular sound frequency. Then it would hit that stained glass, and the stained glass would change the structure of it. And then it would broadcast this sound like we broadcast radios from our transmitters. It would broadcast this sound from these cathedrals, and it would go out into the town. And it would be a harmonizing thing that would affect people's health. And so the original structure of these, 60-foot pipes in these pipe organs was designed in a way where they were built on top of particular ley line energies in the earth, number one. So they got activated by the earth energy that was already there, but they created a certain resonant frequency. And so these cathedrals were basically there to help maintain a healthy, energetic body in all the different people. Darn right. Let's do some fishing. We got some beautiful ducks out here trying to catch some fish. Not catching the big ones today, man. So in 1902 was like a real interesting year in that a lot of the previous technology that we had on this planet seemed to disappear, and then a new form came in following that. Big towns like San Francisco and everything, like the whole town's burned and then got rebirthed. And so it's interesting when you really look at it. And there's this guy named Martin Leakey, and he's got about 30,000 old photographs. And when he shows videos and things from like the town, some of these towns in Germany, like 120 years ago, they had technology. They had things that were so much more advanced. And he was showing this one video of 1920. They had in Germany something like what we call our Zoom. And yeah, right, Fishy. I appreciate you, brother, man. Yeah, I'm about to shut off. I'm about to shut down. I'm about to hit my 2-hour limit. So I'm going to be down with this, and you'll be on, my friend. I was hoping the timing would work good, and I can just bounce from this to go hang out with you, Fishy, because you're the best. Darn right. So yeah, if you study not stories, but you look at you look at real life events, it can give you a whole different kind of opinion. And so what Martin Leakey has shown with a lot of these old photographs is just how far things had come, and then how things had been kind of stifled. And so 1920, no, I can stream for a lot longer. I like to time it, Wisconsin. I like to time it with some other friends' lives and stuff like that. When they go live, oh, I'm getting another bite. Missed him. And I got band practice. I got band practice today, and so I comfortably had a couple hours that I could play. I play drums, and I'm a singer in a band. So I got to get home in a little bit. 10 o'clock. It's like about an hour from now. I got to start playing music. I noticed my own self after about 2 hours. I'm tired of talking, to be honest with you. My opinion, I've watched a lot of chats and I have a lot of live fishings and this and that and everything. And it's like, Andrew, it's been a pleasure, bud. I'm looking forward, man. I'm really looking forward to fishing with you someday, Andrew. You know, I appreciate you throwing that out there, and I seriously will take you up on that, buddy. I'm a diehard fisherman. I love to fish. I love Oregon, being raised there. Hey, I appreciate you, Chaos. Yeah, I'm a Leo, so I have a robust personality, but I'm a little bit of an introvert, and so I'll notice that when I choose to focus my energy and be in the limelight, it's a fun experience, but it'll actually pull energy from me. And so when I'm done with a live or something like that, or I'm done leading a group, I'm a drummer, so I'll do these hand drumming classes or lead a big drum circle. And after a couple hours of doing that and talking to everybody, I'm a little drained. I'm just like, oh yeah. Yeah, exact, man. I'm looking forward to it. We'll slam them. We will slam them puppies, man. Got to get my Oregon. Yeah, it's about $90 for me to get all my license here in Cali with a double rod and my steelhead tags like $8. But then when I go to do my out of state Oregon one, ends up being like $200 and change for by the time I get my license, my well, we got to get the Columbia River validation. You got to get a validation for the South region now for the Rogue. Then you got to get a salmon tag and you get a steelhead tag. Each one of those are like $30 for an out of resident. So I end up paying about $200 last times. I mean, it might be more this year. Yeah. So, and I'm looking at taking a few trips. And so I was going to go hit Nevada. I was going to go hit Utah, doing some crystal digging trips. And I was like, oh, I should go do some fishing. I'm probably just going to do like a week fishing tag or something like that there, because I can't afford to buy 4 or 5 fishing licenses, man. Yeah, it's crazy. I bet you only pay probably like $80, Andrew, for your whole everything, man. They stick it to you if you're out of resident, bro. As Joe Pesci used to say, they screw you in the drive-thru. Man, they screw you in the drive-thru. That's not what he says, but I'm on YouTube. But yeah, they seem to stick it to you, man. $5, man. That's why, like I said, I was kind of ranting earlier about these hatcheries up in Oregon, and they don't do the best job that they should, in a lot of people's opinions. And as someone who lived there, and I saw these runs of salmon and steelheads in the '80s, and then I see them now, and I'm just like, why are they so dismal? And all the elders are like, well, hatcheries just don't want to do the job. Yeah, that's what I thought, man. Wow. $27, man. See that? Yeah. I mean, like I said, just your regular fishing license, regular freshwater fishing license is like $80 here in Cali. $10 for a 2-rod endorsement, $9 for a steelhead tag. So that's what I got. It was like $99, I think, for my whole licensing stuff. And that's residents here in California. But non-resident, man, it's the non-resident stuff that's killing me up in Oregon. All right, y'all. I appreciate you. You guys are the best. Yeah, they sure do milk them. They milk them good, man. I think Fishy's probably live or is going live. So I wish I had redirect set up. I just redirect you guys over to Fishy's. But hopefully you guys all bump over to Fishy and go check him out. I appreciate y'all been here. Hey, Chaos, you rule, man. You're the GOAT. You're the best. Andrew, it was a blast talking with you. Wisconsin, always a pleasure. Everybody else who's in here, y'all take care. Thanks for coming in. I'll send more notifications out. I'm trying to go live this time in the morning, nice and early, before everyone else does. All right, guys, take care of yourself. Be good folks, man.